Hey, good morning, Branches. Good to see you. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Come on, we're going to worship the Lord this morning. We got words up on the screen. Come on. Come on, sing with us. Let praise be. Let praise be a weapon that silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise it rise. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. Let it rise. Let praise it rise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. The fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation crying, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, let faith be a song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be a song that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith rise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. The fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, this is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. And this is what living looks like. And this is what freedom feels like. And this is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. And this is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. And this is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. The fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we'll see you break. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. The fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, yes, we praise you.
Good morning, Branches. How's everybody doing? Woohoo. Wow, if this is what heaven sounds like, count me in. You guys sound great today. Thanks for filling the house and being here. Branches, if you're new, we are building a church you can bring your friends to. So everybody's bringing more friends, and we got to add some chairs, and we might need to suggest that you park at the middle school if you're running out of parking out there. So it is okay to park at the middle school and traverse right past the bank there. That's easy. So that's good. But yeah, so second service. The early birds, they get all the credit. The early birds get the worm, right? I don't know. I think a worm that sleeps in is probably smarter, right? So that's you guys. Welcome to Branches. Make yourself at home. We've got the cafe over here. You can get up at any time during the service and go get some refreshments. How's everybody in the cafe over here, too? Don't want to ignore you guys. There you go. Right on. So, and then other things about Branches. Bathrooms are out off the hallway and around the back here. You might notice the red boxes when you come in. They're mounted to the walls now. That's where you can, there's cards out there for prayer or getting involved, things like that. It's also the place where you can partner with Branches financially to help our mission move forward. We don't pass the plate at Branches. We just have those things out there, and we put that on your heart. And that's a relationship between you and God on how you want to support the mission here in Columbia County and our community. But they are there, and they have been recently relocated and kind of mounted to the walls, so they're not as much in the way. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Lots going on. You guys may have been driving by and see the parking lot of this place full just about every day, right? There's so much happening at Branches, so much good stuff. So you want to hit the Branches app or branches.tv, the website, and it'll give you all the details for things that we flash up on the screens here and everything. I'll just touch on a few things. There's a women's conference coming up on Saturday, March 11th. It's called Ignite. Are you bringing the matches? You're bringing the matches. Carol's bringing gasoline. Right on. So price $32. If there's anybody that hears my voice, that is a problem to pay $32 for, I got you. I'll pay for it. Let me know. So get involved in that. Check the app. Man Camp. Yes. Man Camp. Bring your cribbage game or your cornhole skills. And it is just a good time. It's such a good time to get together with other like-minded men and some, I mean, not everybody's like-minded, but yeah, you know, we can argue. But man, I missed it last year, but the year before, I just took a recording of us singing a song, basically unaccompanied as men, and it was as good as anything I've ever heard in some men's choir or anything else. It was really cool to just raise our voices together as men and be at a place where we were just manning it up at Man Camp. So March 17th to 19th, Camp Magruder, which is over by the coast. And so, yeah, really cool venue and good grub and all that. So get involved and do that. Another way you can get involved is right after service. Second Sunday, we have our gathering meal provided. There is a gluten-free option, okay? So Timmy asked me to say that, so some people are like, oh, they don't have anything for me. I mean, personally, I can eat anything, but I do know people who can't tolerate gluten, and I can't tolerate them a lot of times, so.
They're one of those people.
I know. There's a joke in there. But yeah, so come on in after service. That's right after service today. If you want to run home and grab a kid who couldn't get out of bed or a neighbor that could use a meal and some fellowship, go grab them. That's cool. So another thing we wanted to do today is celebrate what happened. Speaking of a full parking lot, if you guys drove by here Friday night and Saturday all day, we did the Pure Heart Conference with Tom and Donna Cole. And I did it. It was amazing. Honestly, if I seem different to any of you and you're like, no, you're still a jerk, I am like new. I am new. It was such a healing exercise. Imagine if you could take all the stuff you've been carrying, all the things we talk about up here with different metaphors, and you could just bind it up and put it to the cross. That's what happened in this building with like 60 people I counted yesterday, and it was amazing. We wore this building out. And the takeaway for this is when Timmy gets up here and starts telling you about somebody that's going to come and talk, and he does a terrible job of describing the event, just come. It's like if I ever asked Timmy for like a restaurant recommendation, he's like, we went to this place the other night. I don't know, it was like weird food. And I'm like, what kind of food? It was like Mediterranean food. He's like, I don't know, it was just food. Like, just go there and eat it. Like, that's how it is. Like, so next time anything comes up that Timmy and Brianna have seen, met, encountered in their journey, and they bring people here, get here. It was amazing, amazing. So with that, I'd like to give it back to the band, but first, Sierra is our new band face member here. Welcome her and him. Take it away.
You guys want to stand? We're just going to continue to sing this morning. Got a couple more songs. Worship the Lord this morning. Come on, sing. There is no life without you. There is no life without you. You have all that we need. Where you are, every fear is broken. Oh, and the darkness must flee. Come on, closer now. Closer and closer, we want to know you. Reaching out, here in your presence, we want to go deeper. In your light, we come alive. There is no one beside you. You alone are enough. Yes, you are. You fling the doors of your heart wide open. And we are lost in your love. Come on, closer, God. Oh, closer and closer. We want to know you. Reaching out. Here in your presence, we want to go deeper. In your light, we come alive. Oh, closer and closer, we want to know you. Reaching out. Here in your presence, we want to go deeper. In your light, we come alive. To you, we will come running. In you, we find belonging. Your love is all that can satisfy. Can we lift it up to you, God? And to you, we will come running. In you, we find belonging. Your love is all that can satisfy. We worship you, Jesus. To you, we will come running. In you, we find belonging. Your love is all that can satisfy. To you, God. To you, we will come running. In you, we find belonging. Your love is all that can satisfy. Closer and closer, we want to know you. Reaching out, the words we sang when I first believed. Songs of redemption, stories of hope. Heaven awakened inside my soul. Come on, sing it. I sing in Christ alone, my solid ground. Oh, amazing grace. Oh, how sweet the sound on that rugged cross. Oh, Jesus paid it all because he lives. This is my soul. Oh, peace like a river, love so divine. Those words kept singing in the darkest night. Sweet hymns of freedom, anthems of praise, remind my heart to trust his name. In Christ alone, my solid ground. Amazing grace, oh, how sweet the sound on that rugged cross. But Jesus paid it all because he lives. This is my soul. This is my story. This is my song. Oh, praising my Savior all the day long. Oh, blessed assurance, glory divine. Oh, hallelujah, Jesus is mine. This is my story. This is my soul. Oh, praising my Savior, oh, all the day long. Oh, blessed assurance, glory divine. Oh, hallelujah, Jesus is mine. It's in Christ alone, my solid ground. Amazing grace, oh, how sweet the sound on that rugged cross. But Jesus paid it all because he lives. But this is my song. I sing in Christ alone, my solid ground. Amazing grace, oh, how sweet the sound on that rugged cross. Oh, Jesus paid it all because he lives. This is my soul. Oh, because he lives. This is my soul.
Branches, how we doing? It's a good day to be here. Good day to be here at Branches. We're in February, week 2 of our series, No Offense. Just based on the 1 week we've had of it already, how many of you guys are enjoying the series? It's been good. It's tough. It's hard. It's challenging. It's challenging for me, but I'm super excited to teach it. God's good and wants to teach us new things, and so I'm grateful to be a part of it. So just real quick, I don't think Luke talked about it during VAC. If he did, forgive me. Next week, we're going to kids service, or kids church is happening, first service of Branches Kids Connect will be taking place next week. And if he already said it, it's an extra reminder because it's important to know. because, in all honesty, we need to get some of you guys going to first service so we can all fit here. And in light of building a church that we can bring our friends to, we need a church that we can fit our friends in as well. So, and I'm trying with all my might for now to not do 3 services, just selfishly, because preaching is difficult sometimes, and doing it 3 times is a lot more difficult than doing it twice, so I'm told. So, yeah, thank you, Stan. Appreciate that. So this series, though, I think understanding this series for Jesus people is absolutely vital to our mission, for us to live in an unoffendable state. It's so important. And if you're not a Jesus person, this is just practical truth. It will make your life better just because just living unoffendable is a better way to live. And so if you're not a Jesus person, just know, I believe this is rooted in the Bible. It's rooted in the words of Jesus himself and his church, and that's where it comes from. But it's so incredibly practical just for everybody. And there's this book that goes along with this series called Unoffendable by Brent Hansen, and you can check that out on Amazon. I read it a couple weeks ago, and it was challenging, impactful, and super important for all of us to get. And today, I kind of had this week kind of highlighted on my sermon prep because it is especially impactful and kind of fun to talk about, because today we get to talk about those people. You know those people? Those people. You guys thought I was joking about it last week when I said we're going to talk about those people next week. We're talking about those people today. You know, the ones that are everywhere, that drive you crazy, can't stand them, everything they do drives you nuts, and you're like, those people, so frustrating. They're so manipulative, you know? Critical, they're always angry, they're always at each other's throats, they're always making generalizations as we make generalizations against them. You know, they're so needy, they're always taking, they're never giving, you know. They're all the Republicans. Whoa, yeah, watch out. Easy. They're all the Democrats over there, you know. They're all just those people, and we group them into to groups, and we're like, those people. And then when one of them does something that's kind of par for the course, we're like, yeah, it's because they were one of those people. You know, they're controlling, drive us absolutely crazy. And the worst part maybe about those people is that they're always right. You know, they're never wrong. They never said a wrong thing. If you ask them, at least, they're never wrong. Drive us absolutely crazy. How do we deal with those people? I mean, really, as Jesus people, how are we supposed to deal with them? I don't see any exceptions for those people in the Bible where it's like, hey, some people you got to love. Those people, though, it's okay. You're getting out. You don't have to love those people. No, as Jesus people, we're called to love everyone, including maybe even especially those people, especially if they're in our life. How do we love and honor those people that absolutely drive us crazy? And I can tell you the first thing we need help. Because it's hard. It's hard. So I'm going to pray. Lord, thank you for this day. We need your help. God, I pray that you'd speak to our hearts. Show us the way to be more like you. Give us the strength we need that's beyond ourselves to love those who are especially difficult to love. Amen. I think we can all agree that today, loving those people, not only are they more abundant than ever before, it's harder to love those people than ever before. I even think just back a couple of years ago, I think it's harder to love those people today than it was pre-COVID. It's hard. People are just at each other's throats now, and it's difficult. How do we do it? Well, I'm going to walk us through the scripture that Paul we're going to break down, that Paul gives us some direction in how it is that we're to deal with and love those people. And we're going to pick up in Ephesians 4:26, a letter he wrote to the church in Ephesus that's short but extremely powerful. He says this, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building each other up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And then he goes on and he takes it to the next level. He says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Now that we could spend all day on any one of these single verses, I think, but there's such huge implications for us as Jesus people and dealing with those people that are difficult to deal with in our lives. So we're going to break it down here a little bit. Going back to Ephesians 4:26, he says this. He says, in your anger, do not sin. And some of you guys are like, aha, I was here last week, talked about how bad angry was, and I knew there was something in the Bible that says that it's okay to be angry. I don't remember exactly what it is. Here it is. Gotcha. You can be angry. Don't let the sun go down in your anger, it says. And do not give the devil a foothold. So yeah, you can be angry. Says it right there. I'm not going to dispute that. He says you can be angry, but just don't sin. And in this world, again, it's hard not to be angry. What does it take, like 4 seconds when you open your phone to find something triggering? Get on a news site, get on social media. You're like, oh, that's good. Oh, my goodness. Unfollow. Like, why am I seeing this? You can put the little button, like, why am I seeing? I don't want to see this ad. I don't want to see this thing. It's triggering. There's a lot of reasons to be angry, all the injustice and brokenness in our world and just the things that we don't agree with. I mean, on top of that, which are a lot. But have you noticed, though, while you can be angry, that life is never actually better angry? I mean, what have you done angry that's better not angry? Almost nothing. Life is never better angry. And here's what I've noticed about it. There's a couple important things I think that all of us crave in life, whether you're a Jesus person or not. It's joy, peace, and purpose. Like those three things, if we had those, like, we're set. I mean, that's really all we need, right? Joy, peace, and purpose. And what I've noticed about our anger is it so quickly takes our joy away. Like we're, looking at Instagram, everything's good, and then you find that one thing, and now you're just everything, you see it through that lens, and now it's all bad. It takes our joy away like that. It also takes our peace away, and we want joy. I mean, that's what people are searching for in this world. We're all searching for joy, and we look to it through methods of temporary happiness that don't last, and we're looking to replace our joy that's lasting, that's not based on our circumstances, because without it, it's like, why are we alive? Why are we living? And again, in the world with all the injustice and brokenness and all our difficult things that we walk through as people, like we need peace. Without peace, I mean, you want to talk about pandemics. I mean, before the COVID pandemic, the epidemic of mental illness in our world was, especially in first world nations, in the United States, man, it was rampant, and it's only more rampant since then. We are severely lacking peace as people. And I think a lot of it stems back to the offense and the anger that we hold, because when we're angry and we're offended, we're not at peace. And so when we hold on to anger and we can justify it and say, yeah, it's okay to be angry, but is it better to be angry? Almost always, no. And here's the reality of this, and that Paul's drawing attention to, that being offended is inevitable. Like, it's going to happen. It'll happen today. It will happen today. I'm probably going to offend you in the next 20 minutes. It's going to happen. But this is the kicker. Staying offended, living offended, that's a choice. We're going to be in that space at some point, but staying that way, we get to decide how long we stay in that space. That is up to us. Look, the problem is when we stay offended, when we choose to live in that space, what we do is we rehearse the hurt that someone else gave us. So it's like, I've noticed a lot of times, and I've been guilty of this probably a time or two, of hurting someone without even knowing it. And my wife is such a people person and a feeler, and she'll be like, I think you offended that person. You need to go apologize. And honestly, half the time it's true, half the time it's not true, but it never hurts to give an extra apology, But look, so often we can hurt people, or we can be hurt without the person even knowing it, and we rehearse it, and we go over it over and over and over again, and it's like we relive that pain. And sometimes it's just a simple word, someone calling us stupid or something like that, and we're like, oh, that's simple, but then you call yourself, as you rehearse it, I'm stupid, and it's just like twisting the dagger inside of you. Sometimes it's a lot more serious than that. We're going to deal with bitterness and forgiveness as the series goes on more, but sometimes it's like it's deep, it's abuse, it's real pain, it's stuff that went on for a long time in our lives, and then we just carry it and we rehearse it over and over and over again, and just like it perpetuates and gets even worse. And when we do that, we move on to what Paul was warning us against next, is we give the enemy a foothold in our lives. We give him the occasion to act. We give him a space. We give him leverage in our lives to further damage us, to further destroy us. That's a problem. Like, the enemy, he's hell-bent on destruction, on hurting us, destroying our lives, hurting the heart of God. We give him a place when we rehearse our anger and when we hold on to that anger. So it's important that we let it go. And I'm in college now, so I'm going to throw some Greek words at you. Promised I'd never do that, but it's kind of fun. So I'm learning the Greek, which was the original language that this letter was written in. The Greek word for foothold, and as you look at different translations of the Bible today, they'll use foothold in some other words. And the Greek word to this is actually topos. This is the word foothold. This is what it's derived from. And topos means a place, or it's like a headspace. It's like a room. It's an occasion to act, is what topos is. And so the word that he's using here is like, don't let the devil get a place in your hearts. Don't let the devil get an occasion to act. Don't give him leverage in your life. And when we stay angry, when we sit in that space, it allows him to have leverage and a foothold in our life. And if you've ever been through this before, maybe you let a friend stay with you, who you were kind of reluctant to let him stay with you, and then you realize quickly why. Because, a week turned into 3 weeks, and suddenly they're using your toothpaste, and you're washing their dishes, and, they're eating your food and leaving their food in there too long, and you're dealing with it, or, you're the one always taking out the trash or whatever. Like, you let them in there, and then they start kind of taking, like, your peace. They start taking your space. See, when we hold on to our anger, we rehearse those offenses, it's like inviting the devil to live with you, which is way worse than an unwanted guest. Who's literally not just kind of like accidentally bothering you, but he's purposely there to destroy your life. And now you've given him place in your life. You're like, hey, come on in, bud. Let's hang out. And being oblivious to the fact that his purpose is to destroy your life. Now you've let him in. Now he's got space and he's got leverage and he's hard to kick out. I mean, that's what it is when we hold on to that. Why would we let the devil, who's hell-bent on destruction, sit there in that space and give him the occasion to act, give him that leverage in our lives? Now, look, I wish I had a cool hobby that's like drone footage, Instagram-worthy kind of stuff. There's some of those cool hobbies. They're like extreme sports. Maybe some of you guys do that. I like rock climbing. Have you guys seen like people rock climbing? They can get all sorts of cool angles to make it look like it's a lot more steep and intense, but it is intense. Like, I would not want to do that for a hobby. I mean, it'd be cool if I did and I wasn't afraid, but I'm afraid of heights, so I'll never do it. But I have been rock climbing a couple times, like literally 2 times. I've been rock climbing 2 times. And the interesting thing is, because I'm a pretty strong guy, I'm not nimble, though. And so I'll be up there, and what I realize quickly is that if I have my foot on a block that I can really push off of, like, I can do anything. If I don't, I can literally do nothing. So when I have a foothold, I can do anything. I have leverage. I have power. When I don't, I'm worthless. I can't do a thing. The same thing's true with the enemy. When we give him leverage, he's going to take that leverage, and he can do a lot. But if he has no leverage, there's not a whole lot he can do. And it's important that we understand that. No foothold means no power. A foothold means a lot of power. And we get to decide that. We get to choose if we're going to hold on to that fence, if we're going to stay in that space. Why would we want to give the devil a foothold in our families? Why would I want to give him a foothold in this? Be like, hey, bud, we're going to Photoshop you in there with your horns and your, pitchfork and all that kind of stuff. Like, hey, welcome. Come on into my family. Why would we give him a place in this? I don't want him to have a place in there. I don't want him to have a place in this church. Be like, come hang out. We're all offended. We're all living in this space. Like, I don't want to give him a place in my friendships, in my church. Let's not do that. And just for a second, this is kind of weird, but if I were a demon, this is what I would do. If I were a demon and I was invited to the weekly briefing for the demons that they go around decide on how they're going to destroy our lives, imagine one of those exists, Be interesting, maybe to make a show about it or something. I don't know. But it's kind of like the Screw Tape Letters. If you guys ever read that, like, hey, we're going to get together and we're going to decide how it is, and it's scary how accurate it is. So if I were a demon at the demon meeting, I would imagine it would look something like this. They'd have the 3 Ds of destruction. This is how we're going to destroy. This is how we're going to hurt God's heart. This is how we're going to rip apart and destroy relationships and hurt the heart of God. This is what we're going to do. First thing, let's divide families. Let's divide churches. Let's divide friends. Because united, they're unstoppable. Divided, they're ineffective. This is the first thing I would do. If we can destroy lives, hurt the heart of God. And again, look, it's easier than ever. The racial tension, COVID, all that kind of stuff going on, the politics, the canceling that have become paramount in so many of our lives. They seek to divide Christians. We're guilty of this over and over and over again. And like I said, when we're united, we're unstoppable. When we're divided, we are affected. And when we're focused on those people over there, we're so often divided. The next thing I would do is to distract. This is good. Distract Christians from their mission. We have a very specific mission. Love God, love others, go and make disciples. If the devil can distract us, the enemy can distract Christians from their mission. He's like, mission accomplished. This is huge. He's killing it. He's killing it. Are you kidding me? It's so sad. Look, to get them mad, to get Christians mad about anything, even good things, to get us mad about what's going on in culture, to get us to cancel other things, to cancel each other, to boycott sin, to be worried about the books and the shows and not to say that you can't do that, but to be so focused, you're distracted about what's going on out there, even if it's righteous in our own minds, it so easily distracts us from the central mission of what God's called us to be and what God's called us to do as a church. And it's a thing that we have to hold in tension, because I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of sin, there's a lot of injustice. We're limited people. We can only spend so much headspace and so much time, and if it's all on the boycotting, the canceling, and all the other things that we think we need to do as Jesus people, that really we're not going to be able to control a lot of it, and we're not focused on our neighbor and the people that are right in front of us that we're doing life with, we're doing it wrong. And this is hard. This is a mind shift for me. And if we're not distracted with those things, I mean, how easy is it to be distracted with social media? And you get in there and we get caught in the comparison trap. So, that family's killing it, and my food looks like garbage compared to what their food looks like, and my skin and my physique and all this stuff. It's not measuring up to the people around me. We get so caught up in the distractions of keeping up with the people around us. And then we find conspiracy videos and we send them to each other, and we're like, okay, yeah, well, it's probably not true, but it may be true, but is it really worth an hour of my time really diving into this, and the headspace and the peace and the joy that it takes away from my life, where I could be spending that on what God's actually called me to do, to love God, to love others, and make disciples? I mean, this is hard. But if I were at the demon conference, I would be like, let's distract Christians. Let's distract them from their mission. If you just think about that for a second, man, it hurts my heart how much of my life I've spent in this space. And I look around and I see, I'm like, man, we're distracted. We're so... I talked about it a couple weeks ago. I used to think the devil wanted me dead to have me ineffective, and really all he's needed to do is have us distracted. It's a job well done at that point. We're not doing our mission. The third thing I would do is to discredit Christians' witnesses. If we can discredit the influence and authority that they have in the world, mission accomplished. If he can get us to slip up, better yet, if we slip up and then other Christians pile on publicly and be like, hey, look at that guy over there, and we look to just destroy rather than reconcile those who walk away and those who slip up, man, we're doing it wrong. When we're focused as Jesus followers on what we're against more than what we are for, we're doing it wrong. And when we get public and we argue on social media and we're at each other's throats about who's right about non-central doctrine and all that kind of stuff, and the world just sits there and is like, what are these jokers doing? And the devil's sitting there laughing his way to the bank as we're discredited in our witnesses. This is tough, and again, I'm guilty of this too. If he can just get us ticked off at the rest of the world and what's going on, and we're self-righteous, and we're like, we're so good, and we're so right, and really we're just self-centered, trying to be right. And look, it's not just the outward anger towards those people that we're at each other that the devil uses to kind of destroy us, because it gets more personal, because it leaks into our homes, doesn't it? It gets into our own houses. It gets into our own most intimate relationships. It gets into our marriages, our relationships with our kids, our parents. And Paul goes on to talk about this in the context, and I think this especially applies to families. Look, don't let the sun go down on your anger. And this might be one of the most practical, powerful things that we can really internalize and walk out as Jesus people. This is so important. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. How often do we do this? I mean, this is hard. We want to hold on to it, not to let the sun go down. And I need at least a few days. I mean, give me a break. You know, in the context of marriage, my wife and I are far from perfect. I don't want to say I'm going to brag on us for a second, but we're far from perfect in our marriage. We've been married 14 years. We are in marriage counseling. We have been for a couple of years just because I think it's so beneficial, especially with all the things that we're walking through. So I'm a huge proponent of that. We're far from perfect. We're working through things. But one of the things that we've gotten right since we've been married, actually, is this. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. I've been a huge proponent of this, and I think I can count on one hand the amount of times, less than one hand, the amount of times that we've actually not thought this through. And it wasn't, and you see the difference. And yeah, that's led to long, late night fights where we've lost a lot of sleep. You know, those ones that go to midnight. It's like, oh shoot, but I'm glad we did it. And instead, so often, I mean, spouses, you know this, married people, so often the response instead of that is when you're going to bed angry, is you get in bed and you're like, to let them know that you're not over it yet, you kind of like pull the covers off them a little bit. Like passive aggressively, you just roll like, oh, sorry, And if you accidentally touch, you lose points. So you don't do that. You know what I'm talking about. But instead, we're called to like reconcile. We need to reconcile in that moment. And the late night fights, they're worth it. And the reason is because things fester overnight. We know this. And you may wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, I think we kind of worked through it. Tensions aren't as high. The adrenaline's not pumping. I've slept on it. I'm a little bit better. But things fester overnight. It's like getting a sliver and being like, oh, that's okay. That'll deal with itself. It'll be fine. 5 days goes by and the thing's all red and puffy and swollen. And then the fight starts to swell up again. And it's like your spouse takes a needle to it and the thing just explodes everywhere. It's a graphic analogy, but it's kind of fun, but all analogies break down a little bit, But it's like worse than it was before because now it's all festered and it's boiled up and now it's caused even more pain later on. And then you've kind of rehearsed and you've thought about it throughout that time as well and you didn't deal with it. And there's something important that I want us to adopt as a church. Look at this. The day of your hurt should also be the day of your healing. What if we adopted this? The day of your hurt would also be the day of your healing. So things weren't able to fester. Things were dealt with when the day that the offense was taken. Imagine how your friendships would be different. Your marriage would be different. Your family would be different if we were to adopt this. If the same day that the anger comes, the same day the offense comes, that we go and we say, sorry, I was wrong. Would you forgive me? And then we let it go. How powerful would that be if we got this right, church? To get through it, to reconcile the day the stuff happens. And look, Paul goes on and kicks it up another notch. And this is difficult in 429. You guys have probably heard this one before. It says, don't let any, how much of it can we let? None of it, any of it. Don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. That is, whoo. But only what is helpful for building each other up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. This is difficult. So important when we're dealing with those people to get this right, because this means no belittling, bad-mouthing, criticizing, those things that we're so quick to do. Only say what is helpful. That's hard. Practically what that means is like never call names. Maybe never raise your voice. in a condescending way, right? It means never get historical. Never bring back like past hurts, like, hey, 3 weeks ago, oh, that was like, yeah, a year ago you were doing this. Remember that? Never get historical. Love keeps no records of wrong. Never say never. That's a Justin Bieber song or something. I don't know. Never say never brings something to mind. Never say never or always. Because never and always are never true. It's never always true. If you actually say that, like it's hyperbole. We use it like, oh, you never do that. It's like, well, even if I never do that 75% of the time, you're wrong, and it's a moot point. It's not helpful for an argument. Never say never. Never say always. And for married couples, never threaten divorce. It's not helpful. Most importantly, never quote your pastor in a fight. Like, don't bring me into it unless you really want to bring me into it and we can sit down and talk. Don't use it as cannon fodder as you fight each other. Never, I'm going to say never. I know I just said never say never, but never bring your pastor, quote your pastor in a fight. All right, we can talk about it if we really want to talk about it, but don't. Yeah, no cannon fodder as far as that goes. I mean, come on. This is huge for us to get as Jesus people. It says, no, nothing that is unwholesome, only that which is helpful. And again, we're tempted, so often we're tempted to defend our anger, to be like, we're righteous because I was hurt, I was right, and they're wrong. We're right. Our anger is righteous. And again, I'm not going back and saying that you can never be angry, but 99.9% of the time, it results in something bad and not good. And this is huge. I mean, it's almost always used for bad and not for good. So be careful when you justify and you hold on to and you say, my anger is okay. I mean, think about it. Anger is a very destructive thing, is it not? So often it's a destructive thing. Do we call other things that are destructive righteous? Ever thought about that? Like other things that are in our life. Like, yeah, I'm greedy, but it's a righteous greed. You know what I mean? We don't do that. Like it's a righteous greed. Yeah, I'm full of lust, but it's righteous lust. You know, it's a good kind. I'm a glutton, but it's a righteous gluttony. We don't do that. Why do we do it with anger? Instead, it says in Ephesians 4:31, it says this. This is hard. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, and slander, along with every form of malice. This is how we're supposed to deal with it. Get rid of it. Don't hold on to it. He says, get it out of there. You're giving the enemy a foothold. Get rid of it. As soon as it comes in, get rid of it. Yeah, you're going to be angry, but don't hold on to it. Get rid of it. Again, if we could just capture Paul's emphasis, if you were here in this room, or if somehow we could ask AI to create a hologram of Paul, maybe we'll be able to do that someday, but I feel like he'd be begging, like, hey, get rid of it. No, you don't understand the implications. Even those who were did life with Jesus, they got into it with each other sometimes. Thankfully, for the most part, they dealt with it well, but there was other times where they had to ask for forgiveness. They got this wrong. He's like, no, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Don't hold on to it. And the next verse doesn't say to be arrogant, criticize, or come down on people hard. Instead, it says this. It says to be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. And then it just goes back to the great gift that we've been given of grace. And what do we do when God forgave you? That is huge for our lives. It's so important that we get this right, church. And look, if you hear nothing else I say today, I want you to hear this, because this is, the implications for our lives, and I believe this is one of the reasons that our world is in a state that is so incredibly frustrating, especially as Jesus people. But I'm going to push on you guys even harder for a second. This is so important that we get this right. How we do this is simple yet difficult and profound. So this is how we do this. We live up close. It's as simple as that. This is, as Jesus people, this is what we're called to do. We're called to live up close. And what that means is, from a distance, it's easy to shout. From a distance, and because we can communicate with people all over the world like that today, it's easy to hide behind a keyboard and a computer and to shout and say our opinions to the rest of the world. It's easy to shout from a distance, but when we're up close, it's hard to shout. You actually got to look at the person in the face and deal with them. You got to see them in their pain and what they're going through. That's how we're to deal with people. It brings to mind this instance with Jesus when this guy named Jairus came to, I don't know if you guys have watched the new season of The Chosen, but they do this, and it's so beautiful the way this happens. Jairus comes to Jesus, and he's like, hey, my daughter's dying. I mean, I can't imagine. He's like, hey, hurry up, my daughter's dying, but she's way over there. And Jesus doesn't like teleport over there. He's not like, oh, got to be there right now. No, he walks and takes his time, and he's going over there, and while he's doing it, someone comes to him who's been bleeding for most of her life. And he heals her. He's not like, no, hey, look, I'll get back to you later. Like, I'm going to go. I got to take care of this thing. No, he lived up close. Always the people that were right there in proximity with him were the people he was called to serve. He didn't wake up in the morning, read the Israeli Times, and see, all the injustice going on at the other end of the empire and be like, well, boys, we just can't do anything today because all our headspace and all our mind, everything's going to be taken up by what's going on over there, the stuff that we can't influence and fix. No, instead, he dealt with the people that were in his life, right in his way, that he had proximity to, that he had influence over, instead of focusing on the people way over there that he couldn't influence at that time. He lived up close as Jesus people. It's so important that we get this. We're called to live up close, not to hide behind screens, to even love those people that are difficult to love. To live up close, it takes time and effort, and it's difficult, but it's so incredibly necessary. Have you ever tried to hate someone that is in your life constantly? It's hard. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to just be angry at someone who's always in your life because you get reminded of that all the time. And so one of the things that God really worked on me, I grew up, I'm a millennial, and I remember hearing growing up that millennials are lazy and they just eat avocado toast and like they're never going to, the country's going to hell in a handbasket when they're leading it and all this kind of stuff. And so I was kind of resentful. And then I got to like 27 and I'm like, Gen Z, oh boy, they thought we were bad. Gen Z, man, these guys don't have a chance. And I started like being like Gen Z, all this stuff. Careful what you diss on as a Jesus follower, because I became a youth pastor shortly thereafter. And guess what? Every day it's like Gen Z, their problems. Living up close to them, serving them, loving them, it's difficult to do. But once I did, it's like I can't just sit there and criticize them all the time. Like they're right there in my life, and I see their pain, and I see their struggles. And I'm like, this is difficult to do, but we have to do it as Jesus people. When we put people in our lives, and the people that frustrate us the most, and we actually live up close, it's hard to be angry. From a distance, it's easy to write people off, but we can't do that when we're living up close to people because they're in our life. Jesus was more worried about the people that were up close. Actively. I mean, even the story of the Good Samaritan, you see this, and it's like, the people who you come in proximity with, the Pharisee had asked, like, who's my neighbor? Who's my neighbor? He's like, who's your neighbor? The people that you come into contact with that need help. They're the people that are around you that you're called to serve, not getting so riled up about those people way over there, that you can't do possibly what you're called to do to the people right in front of you, that you have influence over, that you have proximity to. This is so important that we get this right. I have this friend. He's always right. You're to ask him. He's always right. Never wrong. He has the right stance on, when we should have ended the lockdowns or should we ever have locked down, vaccines, COVID, masks in school. Like, he has got all of it right. He actually drives me crazy because you ask him, he's always right. His kids are perfect. You ask him, his kids are just perfect. They never screw up. His job is great. Everything's great. The worst part is about this guy, if he was in the room here today, he wouldn't even know that I'm talking about him. He's that dense. Like, he wouldn't even know. He wouldn't even know. Now, as I was thinking about that, I'm like, it dawned on me. What if I'm one of those people? What if I'm somebody else's those people? And guess what? If I am, you are too. I'm taking you down with me. All right, you're somebody else's those people. And I think it's so important for Jesus followers for us to do this on a daily basis, to pray this prayer. It's a dangerous prayer that David wrote in Psalm 139, and it says this: "Search me, God. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in others." No. "See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." Is to ask God, where are the places in my life and my heart that I'm arrogant? Where are the places that I'm selfish? Where's the places that I'm claiming self-righteousness or righteous anger in my life that may not actually be that? Where in my heart am I being judgmental and critical of those around me? To pray that prayer on a daily basis and just ask God, where am I at? Who am I of those people too? And that's where we start. We have so much more control over who we influence, especially ourselves, than we do those who are far from us that we just point fingers at. We need to live up close as Jesus people. This is so important. Remember, the devil's goal in our lives is to divide, to distract, to discredit, and to keep us from God's best for our lives. And he uses it so often by our anger and offense and getting us to hold on and living offended. And we should be better than that. And when we're angry, we lose hope, we lose joy, we lose peace, and we lose the ability to make a difference, the difference that we actually want to see. Being offended is inevitable, but living offended, that is a choice. Ephesians 4:32, it says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you, and God forgave me." Let's do this, church. Let's get this right. God, thank you for this day. God, I ask that you would give us the strength that we need to walk this very difficult task out. God, would you give us the eyes continually to see people around us the way that you see them, God? Would you give us focus and time and the energy we need to live up close with our friends, with our families, with those people, God? Would you give us the strength that we need to love as you loved, God? God, you're so good. I thank you for the work that you've done in this church, the work that you've done in me, and the work that you want to do in the Church of Columbia County in the future. In your name, amen.
To wash my feet, prepare a table for his enemies, lay down his glory for the least of these. No other king would touch a leper's skin, open his arms to let the outcast in. Respond with mercy in the face of sin. Jesus, no one is like you. Jesus, no one beside you. Of this I am convinced, no greater love exists. Forever all my hope is in no other care. gates of hell with just one breath. No other king will reign until the end. Jesus, no one is like you. Jesus, no one beside you. Of this I am convinced. No greater love exists. Oh Jesus, no one is like you. Jesus, no one beside you. Of this I am convinced. No greater love exists. Forever all my hope is in Him. Forever all my hope is in. Oh, no other king. 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 Hey, God bless you, Branches. We love you. Right after this service, we're going to transform this space and have lunch and just invite you to eat with us. Other than that, God bless you. We'll see you next week.